And now it's time for Southern California's sports fishing voice. Let's talk hookup. For the next 2 hours, join Pete Gray, rock cod Rick Maxa, and this week's special expert guest for fishing information, new techniques to catch more fish, and the most current scoop on what's happening in the water. Let's Talk Hookup is sponsored in part by Yamaha Outboards, official motor sponsor of Let's Talk Hookup. Royal Polaris, the world's finest long-range sports fisher. By Ford, the official truck of Let's Talk Hookup, and Shimano Rods and Reels. Fish with the best. Shimano. Get ready for the fastest 2 hours on radio with the hosts of Let's Talk Hookup, Pete Gray and rock cod Rick Maxa.
Hey, good morning, anglers. Welcome to Let's Talk Hookup. Pete and Rick are out of the studio today, and myself, Corey Sandin, in studio with one of the coolest guys I know, surf fishing guy, knows everything about it, Bill Varney. Nice to have you in studio. And hey, if bluefin fishing and yellowfin and all that stuff going on, and yellowtail still at the islands, and
it's crazy out there.
Oh, it's very good fishing. If that's not enough, having Bill in studio, we're going to be right back on Let's Talk Hookup on the Mighty 1090. Stoked to have Bill in the studio. We'll be right back.
You've heard all about it. You know the angler's catching fish habit, so what's holding you back? It's a fact. FishDope.com really does help you catch more fish and burn less fuel. FishDope.com is the only fish finding service with a spotter plane along with a crew of top anglers on the water almost every day that report actual locations and catches. You can get daily catch reports from Point Conception to San Martin Island, 365 days a year. FishDope.com is for everyone, whether you have your own boat, fish on your friend's boat, or a sport boat. FishDope.com has online planning tools, moon phase, tides, hot bite icons, and more. So bottom line is, if you don't have FishDope.com, well, you're probably missing a lot of bites. Membership costs less than $50 of gas, and that's for the entire year. That's right, 1 year. What a bargain. Plus, use the special code to save $20 on a new FishDope.com membership. Check it out today. FishDope.com. Catch more fish, burn less fuel. A few years ago, Shimano introduced the Tranx 500 reel, and it changed the way we cast for big fish. Now, by popular demand, Shimano has created 2 new sizes. Introducing the Tranx 300 and 400. Available now at your local Shimano dealer. Tranx is the dream reel for throwing big baits and catching big fish. X-Ship and HEG technologies combine to provide massive cranking power with a smooth, effortless retrieve. Plus, Shimano's new Core Protect water-resistant technology provides long-lasting durability in the harshest environment. The new Tranx 300 and 400 are available in 2 gear ratios and 2 different handle designs to cover all fresh and saltwater applications. See the new Tranx 300 and 400 at your local Shimano dealer. Tranx, it's not just a new reel, it's a way to fish. Check Shimano.com for all the details.
We all need to get around, but we all need something different from our vehicles. Your San Diego County Ford dealers have you covered if you're looking for a new truck this month. Plus, it's SUV season, so they have great deals for everyone. Whether it's a new EcoSport that is nimble and fun around town, or the Ford Explorer that is capable of putting a boat in the water and has seating for 7, Ford has you covered. Ford trucks and SUVs aren't just powerful and legendary. They have the latest technology that helps you seamlessly connect your smartphone and ensure you're safe on the road. Features like Pro Trailer Backup Assist on trucks are truly a game changer at the ramp, helping you back up a trailer by simply turning a knob on the dash and doing the hard work for you. So check out all the great deals during SUV season and save some money on the right gear for you. Learn more at buyfordnow.com or visit your San Diego County Ford dealers today. They'll be glad to hook you up.
Hey, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup on the Mighty 1090. Stoked to be in studio. Like I said, Pete and Rick still on assignment out of the studio. Pete will be back in tomorrow morning. I'll be stoked to be in here with him. But today, we've got one of the coolest guys I know, and that's Bill Varney. Good to have you in studio.
Hey, it's great to be here, Corey. Thank you so much for asking me to come down.
Yeah, it's so cool. And surf fishing's one of my passions and just something I grew up doing. I still love to do. And, you know, we were talking during break, and I mean, I love the inshore. I love freshwater. I love anything to do with water. Like you said, just add water, right?
That's right.
But the surf fishing thing is just so much fun. It's accessible to so many people, and
it really is. It's a great sport, you know, and it's a great thing to do with your family. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's inexpensive. There's obviously thousands of miles of shoreline from here to Cabo that has fantastic surf fishing. So we love it, and it's something we try to do every week.
Yeah, it's like we're talking about. It's so accessible and something neat to do, and the Corbina fishing. And one of my things in the surf is fishing halibut. It's just a really neat, kind of a niche. I don't want to say niche fishery, but it's just.
To some extent, it is.
It is.
For sure.
It is. And there's guys that like to go catch surf perch and do that kind of thing, and that's cool too. That's fun. And actually, fishing some of the bigger baits for halibut, you'd be amazed. I mean, not you, but the listeners would be amazed at how many 1 pound plus perch you actually catch.
That's right.
On
That's right.
On the halibut stuff.
On the halibut stuff, whether they're swim baits or lucky crafts or rapalas or whatever, you're right. A lot of these folks who went out there and they would fish those for halibut were really surprised at these 15, 16, 17-inch perch they were catching on those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Just shows you what they're eating.
That's really it. True. I mean, that's during the grunting runs and stuff. Those perch actually get pretty ravenous on.
They do.
They do. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
That's probably why the halibut stick by the bottom.
Yeah.
They're afraid otherwise.
Right. Anything new in the surf kind of thing?
Well, this is the time of year this is the fall time of year where we have the beginning of, or maybe probably in the middle of the spawn right now of the local halibut. So the halibut scene, as far as fishing in the surf, is good this time of year, whether it's in the bay, in the surf, near jetty areas, things like that. So that's good. But there's been all kinds of news we have had this year in surf fishing. I think I heard on the show a couple of weeks ago, somebody picked up a wahoo on the beach.
Isn't that crazy?
That was crazy.
Hey, Gundy Gunderson calling that
That's
in.
right.
I mean, what?
That was brilliant. And I knew from Gundy that someday we'd hear something like that, because we've seen so many crazy things, all these orange mount corvina and short fin corvina and striper all along the coast.
That's something, that the striper thing, we heard about some of it 10 years ago, but prior to that, it was a very rare occurrence. Maybe you'd hear 1 or 2 a year, maybe at the most.
That's right.
And somewhere 8 to 12 years ago, you started hearing about quite a few during the season, all year really. It's kind of unusual, but man, the last 8 to 10 years, there's a lot of them. Every week you're hearing about them from Gundy.
You're exactly right, and it's so unusual because if you went back to the 1970s, the Department of Fish and Game back in those days, Wildlife Now, stocked thousands and thousands of them in Redondo Harbor, Huntington Beach Harbor, Newport Harbor, in the Back Bay area, hoping that they would make their way out into sport fishing here in Southern California.
And they put them in not in Mission Bay, but in the San Diego River adjacent to the bay too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, they disappeared. It was the weirdest thing. They really disappeared for like 20, 30 years. And then all of a sudden they began to come back, and you saw them a lot around Dockweiler area. That was where the Bologna Creek comes out.
Right.
Very common area to find them, in the sense that if anybody was going to catch one, it was there. But now we're seeing them from Jalama up above Santa Barbara all the way down to the Mexican border, and some really big fish. We've seen some fish all the way to over 40 pounds.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's not uncommon to hear them 15 to 20 pounds. And
That's right.
I actually had one in the surf 20 years ago that was just shy of 19 pounds.
Oh, my gosh.
At that time, it was a big deal.
Absolutely.
And, today that's pretty common. And like you're saying, from Santa Barbara to us, I mean, that down here in San Diego, it's pretty darn common. And they are, it seems like most of them, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but they kind of relate to river mouths and to sloughs and to harbor entrances.
Exactly, in structure areas. You're right.
Yeah.
So, like, if you go back years ago to some of Gundy's reports, we used to find stripers off of the jetties in Newport Beach area, and they'd be under birds diving and anchovy schools and stuff like that, and you'd cast your crocodile and fish those areas. But more times than not, now we're finding them in and around estuary areas, and these are fish that not only eat sardine and anchovy and squid and all those things, but they go into these rocky estuary areas and they eat sidewinder crabs, sand crabs, worms, clams, things like that also. Yeah,
they're not just a bait fish eater kind of thing. They kind of root around and.
Yes, they're looking for whatever's available.
Well, like on the East Coast, I got to catch some this year, actually, Bill. We didn't talk about it, but I got to catch some on Martha's Vineyard on the East Coast.
Oh, how fun.
This year. And, man, you talk about just a cool thing. I mean, that's kind of their whole focal of the fishery is stripers.
It's like a lifestyle over there, and they have all kinds of equipment that they take in the water with them. They wade out there. They have all kinds of special clothes they wear. You're right. And they actually fish eels a lot for them, you know, and it's just kind of – they're not just a bait fish kind of eatery. And I know, was it in the late 1800s, they actually put them on a train and brought them over to San Francisco Harbor. That's right.
From the East Coast. So that's how our population here actually originated.
It's amazing. And you wonder sometimes about how these populations originate. Like one of the big surprises in the last few years are bonefish. Now, bonefish have been caught in the San Diego Back Bay areas for years, I would say. At least
decades.
Decades.
Yes.
At least a dozen or 2 dozen years I can remember hearing them there.
Yeah.
But last year we had reports and pictures of 2 of them caught in Torrance Beach, right near Palos Verdes there. So how do they get from, Cabo or Panama all the way up to here, and now they're making their way north. So
isn't that crazy?
It's really quite crazy.
And they're in Mag Bay too, aren't they?
Yes, they're definitely in Mag Bay. Tons of them down there.
It just kind of I'm trying to track how far north they actually take up residence, but it is very unusual. And I think the power plant in the Back Bay of San Diego Harbor that shut down, I want to say 7 to 10 years ago, somewhere in there, that actually kept that whole warm water fish, the shortfin corvina and the bonefish, and there were actually Jack Crevalle back there.
Wow.
So there was a really neat, a true niche fishery, and actually green sea turtles back there, Bill.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So it created its own environment, the warm water.
It did, and they shut that down, so it kind of, like the Jack Crevalle and those that are extreme to warm water kind of left, but the bonefish are still in the harbor, and the green sea turtles are still in there year-round. And
it's just amazing. I think anywhere they can find food, that's where they're going to begin to gravitate toward.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it has anything to do with, the water being warmer or colder, or as time goes on and global warming, all these other factors that we as humans think about more than the fish's simplicity of just finding something to eat.
Right, but the shortfin corvina, too. I mean, you've surf-fished all up and down Baja, and I've surf-fished Abriojos or in that zone, and the shortfin corvina are a mainstay. I mean, that's kind of between the halibut and the shortfin corvina, that's kind of what you catch.
That's right.
And to have them this far north is a pretty darn cool thing, and there's a lot of guys that fish them in the harbor.
Absolutely, and even to this day, you still see postings on the internet about, I caught this fish. Can somebody identify it for me?
Yeah.
Because nobody's really seen it.
And they kind of look like a little white sea bass.
That's right. They look like a little white sea bass till you open their mouth and they have 3-inch long teeth.
Right.
And an orange top of their mouth. It really catches your interest there as to what you have.
Yeah, the vampire fangs. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Keep your hands out of their mouth.
Kind of cool, Bill.
They're really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just kind of a neat deal. Surf fishing's one of our passions, and we love doing it. And
yeah, absolutely. And, just like any other fishing in the ocean, is you really never know when you cast your line in, your bait in, your lure in, what you're going to catch.
Yeah.
And when you go up to a lake, you can pretty much be assured that, you're going to catch a trout or maybe a perch or maybe a bass or something. But in the ocean, you just never know. And now that we've seen everything from tuna in the surf here to wahoo in the surf to bonefish, and it's really an exciting fishery.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And that, our whole, quote-unquote El Nino-esque kind of last 5 years kind of changed those dynamics and changed things a little bit. But it seems like we're getting more of the perch and more of the yellowfin croaker and getting back to, I don't want to say normal, but what's normal anymore, but semi-normal.
Right, and it's been such an unusual time. It has made so many interesting changes by all that warm water coming up the coast. Basically what happened is much of the bait, the sand crabs, particularly here in San Diego and then farther north, basically disappeared from the standpoint of they stayed hibernating or they didn't reproduce and so forth. So the fish moved north in order to find more bait. And this, I would say for the last 3 summers, this summer in particular, the Santa Barbara area, really in Ventura too, but particularly Carpinteria, Santa Barbara proper, incredible corvina fishing. Never seen such big corvina in such large numbers in my life. It's just amazing. In an area that's typically cooler water, and you just see an occasional corbina in the summer in the warmest months, now you've got an area that you can say, hey, I can go here and I can, bet my bottom dollar on catching a 26-inch corbina. So
interesting.
They migrate.
And so that's kind of part of the, quote-unquote El Nino-esque kind of
that's right.
thing where they've pushed that far north. And
that's exactly right. And then as the water cooled, the bait came back down south here, and the fish made their way back down south. So 3 years ago, you tried to catch a perch at Carlsbad, it was like an exotic. You had probably a better chance of getting a Dorado from the beach than a barred perch, whereas if you went back 5-6 years ago when the water was cold in San Diego, that's all you could catch was perch.
Right.
So, yes, we've seen these changes by that warm water. It's not made anything worse or better. It's just made it different.
Yeah, and not, like you say, not for the worse, but just different. And having the corbina that far north. And like Gundy's mentioned catching the yellows off the jetties at Carlsbad right there.
That's right. Right. I mean, if that's not exciting, I don't know what to tell you.
And good ones,
That's right. I think I saw one that was over 20 pounds that came off of the jetty there.
Exactly. Now that went on for a little while too. It was quiet for a little while where not many people knew about it, and then hearing it on the show here with Gundy, it kind of got out of the bag, but it still went on for over a couple weeks.
Oh my gosh, and Gundy brought up a really important point, and that is when you're fishing from the rocks before you catch a fish, you've got to figure out your escape route. You've got to figure out if you get a bigger fish,
what am I going to do?
What am I going to do? And the worst thing that you can do is look down to the rocks below you that are partly submerged, very mossy, and say, my plan is I'm going to get down on that little rock down there and try to get this fish in. That's a good way of losing your life.
As slippery as ice, really.
Absolutely. So, when we fish the rocks, we always look for an escape route. We do it from the standpoint of not only if a big wave comes, we want to be, have a way to get away and get up and get out of there. But also if we hook a big fish, how can we get around the end of the jetty or the side of the jetty to get down to the sand and then get some angle and leverage on that fish to get it in? And that's how you're going to get the big fish to shore.
There's an art to it. There is.
There definitely is.
And actually when you're in the surf and being able to utilize the momentum of the wave, it might only be a 1-foot slapper, right? But it's using the momentum of that wave to get the fish coming in with you,
Exactly, and rather than going away from you.
Exactly, and almost to get it, like with a halibut fishing, you get them coming in, and you get them coming with the momentum, and you almost keep that little bit of tension just enough to where the water disappears from them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. As that water sucks back out, you hope it gets thin enough so that thing grounds out for you. And you get a chance to grab it and get it up on that dry sand before the next wave takes both of you out.
Yeah, no, there's definitely an art to it. Fishing corbina, like you're talking about up in Santa Barbara area, do you find that when you're fishing the sand crab thing that high tide, low tide, like the tide makes a difference?
The tide makes in surf fishing, tide is probably one of the biggest factors that we take into consideration. And there's two ways to look at the tide. Anytime we're fishing a beach that's a dredged sand beach, so Pacific Beach, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan, Redondo, where they've dredged it there and there's no natural structure there, the area that the fish hang out there are in troughs and holes and things that are near shore there because there's no real rocks and things like that. So in times like that, we fish about 2 hours before high tide to 2 hours after high tide. In areas where we have natural structure and they haven't dredged the beach, so that would be like Carpinteria would be an example up north, Carlsbad down here, Santa Barbara, La Jolla down here, around Ponto, all those areas. We're going to fish a lot of times both tides, high and low, but we do find down here, because there's so much kelp, that if we fish about an hour to 2 hours after high tide low tide up toward high tide, most of that kelp is on the shore and not on our line. And as each successive wave comes in farther and farther, the fish come right in with them. And so down here in San Diego, we normally fish about 2 hours after high tide up to high tide. And then up in Huntington Beach and Hermosa, Manhattan, about 2 hours before high tide to 2 hours after.
So you're almost looking for that fish to be searching and kind of work its way into newly flooded area.
That's exactly right. It's making its way into you. So all those crab beds that are exposed at low tide as each successive wave comes up the beach and washes over those, the corbina, the spot, and everything makes their way up with that wave once that begins to get covered, and that's where they feed.
I gotcha. That's kind of cool. It's a really good way of looking at it.
Brings them right to you.
Right. I mean, that's kind of good. Hey, we've got an exciting show ahead of us, Bill, and an exciting 2 hours. Like you were saying, it's the fastest 2 hours on radio.
Oh, it's like lightning.
It is. And you're giving away several packages, 3 packages total, surf fishing packages, which include the new calendar. We haven't even talked about the calendar yet.
That's right. We're going to give away 3 calendars today, 3 winners on calendars, and then 1 for the surf fishing kit. That includes my book, the bait bucket, everything you need but rod and reel and license to go surf fishing. That's
an incredible package. 3 of them total to 3 lucky callers. Give us a call next 2 hours, 877-792-1090. 858-457-1090. Give us a shout. We have Bill Varney in the studio for the next 2 hours talking surf, talking killer fishing. We're going to be right back on Let's Talk Hookup on the Mighty 1090.
This is Greg Stotesbury from AFCO. For more than 58 years, the American Fishing Tackle Company has been recognized as the premier manufacturer of precision-built offshore fishing tackle. AFCO continues this tradition today with an innovative technical fishing clothing line designed and built by fishermen for fishermen. From our next-generation waterproof shorts like Tactical or Stealth to our new anhydrous waterproof jacket and bibs, the entire AFCO clothing line is purpose-built with the latest AFTEC fabrics and features designed to deliver for the demanding angler. To find AFCO products, go to AFCO.com and find a dealer near you.
This is Captain Mark Rayer for Genren Sport Fishing. Located on the Sea of Cortez, we will show you a fishing experience that will exceed your expectations. Genren boats are outfitted with all accurate reels from the smallest Valiant 300 to the beefy ATDs. Simrad electronics, Fraser gyro binoculars, and Cruise with a passion to fish is just part of what makes us number one. Also, Cabo Yachts Vaquera has a Seakeeper for your comfort. For 2 live webcams, an up-to-date fish report, accommodation packages, check out TeamGenren.com. We pick up at Rancho Leonero and all East Cape locations. So let's go fishing.
I can't wait to spend some quality time with my son fishing this year, teaching him about casting, how to choose baits, set the hook, and how to be safe on the water by always wearing a life jacket. Save the ones you love. A message from California State Parks Division of Boating and Waterways.
Here's John Ireland for Rancho Leonero.
The main emphasis on the ranch, we're going to keep it old style. We're not going to change anything. We're just going to improve what we have. The kitchen is brand new kitchen this year with all new kitchen equipment, new stoves, ovens. We put a new freezer in. We've put in all brand new split air conditioners with thermostats to make sure every room is cold. We've also worked on the boat fleet with a couple large lures, a 31 and a 34. We've got the largest Super Ponga fleet on the East Cape, all with brand new Yamaha motors. Brand new beds. We've got all Serta beds, the best beds in Baja, I kid you not. We're working all the time at the ranch. We're not changing it, just making it a lot better. That's why we get the high TripAdvisor reviews. It's my responsibility. I got to take care of you. I'll personally guarantee your best fishing experience and vacation at Rancho Leonero. RanchoLeonero.com. Our new reservation phone number is 800-646-2252, 646-BAJA.
This is Brandon Hayward with Bite Sport Fishing, here to talk about Parker Boats and the crew at West Coast Marine. In the spring of 2013, I bought my first Parker. When it came time to rebrand from one-man charters to Bite Sport Fishing and add to my fleet and start running out of Davies Locker, Newport Beach, and Fisherman's Landing this summer season, I chose a Parker. When clients ask why I chose Parker, I always say, I could have had any boat, but my 2320 is perfect for my white sea bass, offshore, and lobster program. Almost 6,000 hours on my 2320 Pilot House over the past 6 seasons has shown me that Parker is the ultimate West Coast charter boat. It's what customers expect. These stout workhorses offer everything anglers need, as in a stable platform with huge deck space for our West Coast style of live bait fishing. Parker's a big reason why I run more charters than any other small boat operation in Southern California. I like my 2320 so much that I bought another one. And while you never know what's going to happen with fishing, I know it won't be my last Parker I buy from West Coast Marine. If fishing isn't something you do but who you are, then Parker's for you, be it a one-day charter or a lifetime of ownership. If you're ready for a new Parker at a fair, upfront, and honest deal, you need to go see Kevin Kelly at West Coast Marine. Check out their inventory and information at westcoastmarine.com.
XEPRS 1090 AM Rosarito, Baja California.
San Diego's sports leader. The home of ESPN Radio. The mighty 1090.
All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup on the mighty 1090. Like I said, if you're just joining us, Pete and Rick are both out of the studio, and myself, Corey Sandin, in studio with the guy, the surf guy,
We took it over. We took the studio over.
Bill, Varney, it's good to have you in studio.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. So great.
Yeah.
And really looking forward to answering some great questions about surf fishing.
And like I was saying before we went to break, we haven't even talked about the calendar, you know?
That's right. We'll get to that
it's
for
so
sure.
Cool. I mean, looking at these pictures, and I've grown up with this calendar.
That calendar's been around for quite a long time, and Bill Rucker, who put it together for many years.
Yeah.
I know over a dozen years or so. I got somehow roped into putting the calendar together when he decided to retire, and now I know what a big job it is.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. But we get more than 3,000 photographs from some of the country's top fishing photographers that we go through to find 12. So
right.
It's quite an interesting thing.
It's so cool. And they're in the shops now.
They're in the shops now. They just got in there last week, and they're ready for everybody to pick them up for 2019. It's got all kinds of incredible dates on there, and records, and beautiful pictures, and tips and information about fishing, and all kinds of things.
It's so cool, Bill. And if they live out of the area and they're maybe listening on the app at some other point and, during their day, if they don't have a local shop that has them, they can jump on Surf Fish Tackle?
Exactly, surffishtackle.com. They can go right there and order it. And we have people all over the country, whether it's Texas or North Carolina or Florida, who order them.
That's cool.
They don't go by our tide chart, but they certainly like the pictures in there.
The photos are incredible.
And, of course, this is the CCA calendar, so this calendar helps support CCA and promote CCA and lets everybody know that we're out there and how important it is for them to become a member.
There it is, and CCA is. With that being said, let's jump into the lines. They are absolutely packed up, Bill, and they want to talk to you. They want to find out. Let's go to Scott. Scott's calling from San Diego. Welcome to the show this morning, Scott.
Hey, Corey. Good morning, Bill. How are you guys doing?
Very good. Thank you, Scott.
Hey, I was just calling to ask about for fishing for halibut in the surf, where, and the tackle recommendations and the tides that you would recommend to try to catch a halibut in the surf if it's your first time.
That's a great question, Scott. You got the right guy in studio.
That's right. Boy, you covered all bases there, that's for sure. Well, let's just first start with equipment-wise. There's a couple different ways to fish halibut in the surf. One would be with live bait, and the other would be with a lure. I would use two different setups. If I was fishing live bait, I'd probably use a 7 to 9 foot light action or medium action trout rod with about 2,500 size spinning reel, 6 to 8 pound test, and use that in the surf. If I was fishing a lure like a Lucky Craft or a Rapala or a Rapala or a Crocodile or one of those, I'd use a little heavier rod and many times fish with a conventional reel with about 10-pound monofilament. So that's where I'd start. Time of year, they're available all year long, but they spawn in the fall and in the springtime. So right now they're in their spawning phase and coming into many of the harbor areas now. So now's a good time. Certainly in the springtime, all you want to do is you want to follow the grunion runs. If you go on the Department of Fish and Wildlife's website, you'll find a link there that has all of the times, days of these runs, when you can actually take them, when you can't take them, and so on and so forth. So I would start there to figure that out in the springtime. And then that pretty much is going to cover everything you need to know other than where they are. And halibut in general, and almost all the time, associate with where there's structure and sand. So on the edge of jetties, whether that jetty is surrounding a harbor or out in the open ocean, you want to fish right where the sand and the rocks meet. Right along those edges is where you're going to find a lot of the halibut.
I think that's a huge key, Scott. What he just mentioned is people think halibut and they think sand. And that is true. It is true. But you wouldn't believe, Scott, how much they relate to hard bottom, how much they're on the rock, the cobblestone. You wouldn't believe diving for them.
Right.
How many land on the cobblestone.
Exactly.
And think they're completely blending in with their camouflage.
That's right. It's actually amazing how when you dive on a jetty, for example, you'll see them buried in the sand on the edge of that jetty, and you'll also see them laying on the rock.
Right. Or
of
yes,
the jetty.
That's exactly it, Scott. And right up against it. They literally... when you dive and you look at the little perch and all that stuff swimming around, they don't want to leave the rock. They'll swim on the edge.
Yep.
But they don't want to go to the sand. They want to feed and live and hide in the rock. Well, the halibut are going to put themselves right up against that to eat those perch, eat the smelt, eat that stuff coming off the rock.
Absolutely. And Scott, I'll give you one more tip before we let you go. Grunion, fishing with grunion or following the grunion runs for halibut is a great way to find them. But the million-dollar question is, where do the grunion come in? So you hear a grunion run and, it's going to be down at the beach, and unless you go in the middle of the night and look for them, you don't know exactly what area that they come in. They might only be 100 feet wide or 100 yards wide. So the secret is finding that area out, and the best way to do that, become friends with the local lifeguard down in your area or the warden who's down there if it's a state park. And when you get a chance to go down there in the morning or the day before, give them a call and say, hey, do you guys know where the grunion come in? And more times than not, even though they're not fishermen, they'll say, oh, yeah, I came in by Tower 25. And that's where you start the next day.
Well, hopefully that helps you out, Scott. And we appreciate you joining the show this morning, Scott. Thank you very much. Let's jump back into and talk to Gary. Gary's calling from Longdale. Thanks for joining us on Let's Talk Hookup, Gary.
Good morning, guys. Hey, by the way, Corey, you're doing a great job.
Hey, thank you very much, Gary.
I would like to talk about surf fishing spots that I know of, and I was wondering what you thought about that, Bill. First off, I'd like to say that, Bill, you and I both knew the best surf fisherman of all time, and that was Fred Oakley. My surf fishing spots are Manhattan Beach at Rosecrans and Avenue I in Torrance. What do you think about those spots?
Well, I grew up in Hermosa Beach and in that area, South Bay, so I'm very familiar with that. And, of course, as you said about Fred Oakley, Fred really taught me everything I know in the 1960s about surf fishing and about catching bait and about growing up and being a good person. I mean, he was really a fantastic person and an incredible fisherman, held half a dozen world records at the time. I think the most incredible one was the fact that he had the Mako shark record until the 1980s. He caught a 300 or 400 pound Mako shark from the sand.
From the beach.
He was afraid of the water, which was odd enough because he didn't know how to swim. He grew up in Redondo Beach, but really never learned.
Wow. So
that was why he was such a good surf fisherman. But anyway, great person to know and learn so much from him. But both Rosecrans and Manhattan, that whole area over the years and in Hermosa has been fantastic Corbina fishing along there and always good perch fishing. Now we've seen quite a few stripers there. But when you go down to the avenues and you go from the avenues over toward Rat Beach and Palos Verdes there, Rat standing for right after Torrance, I think. We used to think as a kid there was a big rock there that projected a shadow that looked like a rat, but I think it really is right after Torrance. And Corey and I were talking about this earlier. There were a couple of bonefish caught there in the last year. So that area along the avenues has had some really good yellowfin croaker fishing. I've seen some spotfin down there recently, some good Corbina, and now we've seen some stripers there. So both areas really, really good. And when you're surf fishing, you're really looking for conditions. There's no spot that's better than another.
Yeah, that's.
I had a question for Corey as well. Corey, what MC swim bait would you use in the surf for halibut?
Well, it's funny you ask, Gary. One of my all-time favorites, because I love fishing the halibut, like we were talking about. And I love fishing the calicos and the sand bass even in the surf. You wouldn't believe, how good it could be.
That's right.
And it is kind of related to bait, like Bill's saying. If you have chovy and you have that kind of thing going on, grunion too. The grunion's a big thing. But my favorite thing of what I make, Gary, in the surf is by far the 5-inch slug. The 5-inch slug in a smelt pattern is exactly what a grunion is.
Right.
To the T. And you can rig them completely weedless. You get a Gamakatsu Superline hook, unweighted swim bait hook, a 5/0, rig that to the slug, and you can fish a weightless. Okay, so now you have like a freshwater style slug, but secondarily you can rig it with a worm weight. If you peg a worm weight, you now have the most weedless. I don't even need to say another word. You can picture what's going to happen, and it's a lot of fun. You can fish it through the surf grass, through the kelp, and try it out, Gary. You'll be quite pleasantly surprised, Gary, and we appreciate you joining the show. And I see on the line, hey, Bill, we've got Castman waiting. Today's Catch Report is sponsored by Fish Pros at Fisherman Processing in San Diego not only offer the best processing for your fish when you return with your trip to San Diego Landing, now they have Fish Pros to Market. You can purchase fresh fish, smoked, and jerky fish, and their famous tuna burgers at their convenient Liberty Station location. Fish Pros have also become famous for their line of smoked spices, rubs, salts, and as well as smoked cheese. Pick some up at their Liberty Station location or order online at fishmansprocessing.com. Let's jump into it. Good morning, Castman. Good.
How's everything going?
Doing good.
Yeah, you got Pete and Ricky are out, but you guys are holding down the fort, doing a good job. And anyway, I just want to go over our Wahoo Rumble that we had last weekend down in San Jose del Cabo. We had 46 anglers fishing on 19 boats, and it turned out to be one heck of a trip. We had some nice Wahoo caught, a 45-pounder caught by Dwayne Bernie Bernard of San Diego, took first place. And then we had a 41-pounder and a 36.5-pounder that took first, second, and third. Along with the Wahoo, there was quite a few tuna caught. Most of them were football-sized fish, but on the very last day, we had one of our boats come in with a 302-pound yellowfin that was taken on some chunk squid out at the San Luis Bank. So some really good fishing going on and some good catching. Another successful year on our annual Wahoo Rumble that we hold down there every November. But anyway, otherwise the fishing in that area is getting good and getting better as we go along, as we get into the end of November and into December. It'll still fish good there. A few Dorado in the mix down there. If you want billfish, you got choice of stripers, some sailfish, a few blue and black marlin running around down there. So all around that southern tip of Baja, it's some really good fishing going on. And we're starting to get into the winter mode now as everything's starting to move south. Over in Mazatlan there, they're starting to have a pretty good sailfish bite there along with a few stripers. They're getting a few tuna, not many. But as we get down into Ixtapas y Guantanejo, down in the southern part of Mexico there on the Pacific coast, this is a really good winter fishery, and it started off early this year, and it's going to fish strong all the way through April and May. Right now, the boats are averaging 3 to 4 sailfish releases down there on a daily basis down there. Also, a few tuna out about 30-some miles, but along the beach is really good rooster fish and Jack Crevalle fishing there, throwing poppers and trolling dead rig baits, all working well down there. So some fabulous fishing going on down in the southern part of Mexico. So like I said, that's a great winter destination. And anybody wants to book a trip to all our destinations we sell in southern Baja, mainland Mexico, Central America, and other places, can give us a call at Cast Tours at 800-593-6510 or check us out on the web at www.casttours.com. And I just want to remind the guys I still got space available on our Pesca Panama trip this April. Anybody wants to join myself and Ricky on that trip, give me a call once again at 800-593-6510, and I'll talk to you boys next week.
Now, that's good stuff, Cass. Is that one spot open to Pesca Panama? Is that fishing with Rick?
Yeah, fishing with Ricky. Like I said, I got a spot for 1 or 2 anglers on that. And if you want more information on that, give me a call here at the office.
Well, that's good stuff, Cass. Give us the number one more time, and that's just to clarify. That one spot's fishing with Rick in the boat, right?
Yes.
There it is.
800-593-6510. And I'll talk to you guys next week.
All right, Cass. Thank you very much for the report. Definitely good stuff. And let's jump back into the lines, Bill. Like I said, they're packed up. They want to talk to you. They want to talk surf fishing, and I love it. I'm sure you do, too. Mm-hmm. Let's talk to Rich. Rich is calling from Bradley. Good morning. Welcome to Let's Talk Hookup, Rich.
Hey, Rich. Good morning to you guys, too. A few years ago, I got on the Big Game 90, and they backed the stern of the boat right up into the surf to where we were casting into the backs of the waves to catch white sea bass. And I thought, well, if they do that from the boat, it's not that far from the beach to hit the other side of the waves. And I'm wondering if that's a viable thing that you can do for white sea bass from the beach, and how would you do it? And have you done much of it? What would you do for rigging and stuff like that? And then another question for Corey. You were talking about using the slugs in the surf. Are you rigging that up with braid and using a kept cutter rig for when you're rigging it weedless?
Well, I'll give you the slug one first. So like we talked about, rigging it on an unweighted Gamakatsu Superline hook, 5/0 with a 5-inch slug. You can rig it one of two ways. I mentioned it with the worm weight pegged, and so you have like a solid unit, as far as it's like fishing a lead-headed bait, basically. The other way would be drop shotting, and we didn't mention that. But, yeah, the braid would be straight to the hook with the drop shotting. I do use a short 2-foot leader, much heavier than the 8 to 10 pound that Bill's talking about, but definitely a heavier leader. And so those
like how heavy?
I'll use 25 pound. And
okay, cool.
And with the drop shot, the Spectra straight to the hook, a secondarily line tied for the sinker, at least 24 inches minimal, and that's going to be a very light line, like the 8 to 10 pounds, so that if you get hung up, you can break that off. And then Bill will give you the white sea bass one.
Yeah, the white sea bass question is a good question, and what's funny you brought that up is that there has been a couple of times where we have backed down at Catalina in very shallow water and that off-colored shallow water to fish for white sea bass, and in one occasion we caught 2 Corbina followed by 4 white sea bass right after the Corbina. So
oh, cool.
You're in shallow water when that's going on. You really got to look at the fathometer. One thing about white sea bass is you can't particularly target them in the surf. It's not something like I'm going to say that I'm looking for perch or halibut or Corbina, and that's something that's in there commonly. There have been over the years many big white sea bass caught in the surf. Most of those I've seen have been caught on rapalas, on Lucky Crafts, occasionally on squid, on strips of squid, and then on swim baits like Corey's swim baits. And the place you're going to find those more times than not is once again a place where you have structure adjacent to sand, particularly areas maybe if you're up toward Malibu where you're going to have kelp and so forth. But I've seen a couple of huge ones at Carlsbad near the Ponto breakwater or the Ponto jetty there area too. So you can't particularly target them. And you can look for maybe diving birds, bait offshore, and fish those areas, whether it's with a crocodile, something you can cast a distance to get to them. But they're definitely in the surf, but it's more of an incidental catch.
And I agree with you. And it's like we hear Mark Wish talk about all the time. There's little pocket beaches on Catalina, and they're, those handful of pocket beaches are like their spots, and that's kind of where they go to. And you can find those spots on the coast too, but it's like you're saying, Bill. They come in and out and kind of do their thing. You can't really target it.
They're of course going there looking for food, so it wouldn't be like, hey, we're gonna, you and I are gonna go over to this rock to get in the shade. They're actually only going to be there if they're looking for food. So if food's occurring there, forage for them, they're going to come there. Otherwise, it's just a hit and miss.
And I'll tell you too, the Lake Del Marsh. Mm-hmm. Made it very popular with fishing the Baja Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And,
you sure did.
And fishing bait and getting those big sea bass. And just that from my childhood on, that legendary Del Marsh, man, he just
That's right.
He lit up my world with surf fishing, really.
And that was in a particular area, like an Abriejos type of area that he would go to, where they would congregate because food was there in general. And then once they found out that was some place they would come at a certain time of year, they would go back there and fish there.
Yeah, what a cool thing. Yeah. Well, hey, with all this being said, we're going to have more show. We have more going on, more fish reports. We're going to be back with Let's Talk Hookup on the Mighty 1090 and Bill Varney.
All of us at the American Angler family want to express appreciation to our regular passengers that fish with us year after year, and to the new anglers that came out this last season. We realize how precious your vacation time is, and we are truly grateful that you have chosen to spend this time with us. It's important that your experience is memorable, from the moment you call the office to the time you step off the boat. Hi, I'm Lori. Call me at the office, 619-223-5414, or check us out at AmericanAnglerSportFishing.com. Come fishing with the American Angler family and make a memory.
Yamaha's Why Wait for Spring Fall Sales Event is back. For a limited time, purchase an eligible new 2.5 to 115 horsepower 4-stroke and get 6 years of warranty protection plus up to $500 in dealer credit. New 150 to 300 horsepower 4-strokes come with 6 full years of warranty protection. Visit your local Yamaha Outboards dealer today. Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Offer ends November 19th, 2018. Subject to change at any time. Other restrictions and conditions apply. 36-month limited warranty and 36-month Yamaha extended service contract. Choice offered to Florida residents is a 36-month Yamaha limited warranty. See authorized participating Yamaha outboard dealers for details. This promotion cannot be used with any other Yamaha offer.
Sport fishing, not just for Dad anymore. At Dana Wharf Sport Fishing, kids fish free every Sunday. Free half-day fishing trip and clinic free for kids 12 and under every Sunday at Dana Wharf. Join the Dana Wharf Kids Club and get over $100 of really cool stuff like 2 free fishing trips, a free whale watch trip, and more. Dana Wharf, everyone's favorite since 1971. Click DanaWharf.com or visit them in the Dana Point Harbor, the bass capital of the West, and only minutes from the 5 freeway in Orange County. DanaWharf.com, where kids fish free.
Hey, this is Rosie with Cedros Sport Fishing. Cedros Island is considered the yellowtail and calico bass fishing capital in the world, and nobody does it better than Cedros Sport Fishing. We are committed to providing first-class service to our guests as well as an unforgettable fishing experience. We have made a good thing even better. We now have a direct flight departing to the CBX in San Diego. Leave home in the morning and fish in the afternoon. We have a beautiful waterfront lodge with first-class accommodations and meals. What are you waiting for? Call me at 619-772-7570 or check out CedrosSportFishing.com. Book soon. Trips are going fast.
When bad weather and rough seas send other boats back to the dock, Seakeeper allows you to fish longer and fish harder, even in the roughest conditions. Don't believe it? Just ask those that have put them on their boat, like Captain Pete Grosbeck and other professionals. Fishing in the trough with Seakeeper basically eliminates the trough. Seakeeper's newest offering, the Seakeeper 3, is optimized to eliminate up to 95% of boat roll on boats between 30 and 39 feet. Even better, this gyro is so small it can fit inside a customized leaning post and operate on your current battery system, making installation fast and easy. Watch for new product coming soon. The Seakeeper for boats. Think about it. Eliminate up to 95% of boat roll on your boat. That is amazing. To learn more about how Seakeeper can change your life on the water and to schedule your free demo, go to Seakeeper.com. Take a ride, be amazed. Seakeeper.
All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Hookup on the Mighty 1090. We're having fun in studio with Bill and Varney. You want to join us, 877-792-1090 or 858-457-1090. We're going to jump into them, and we're going to talk to Kevin. Kevin is calling from Pacific Beach. Good morning and welcome to the show, Kevin.
Hey, good morning. I have a couple things. I surf fished all my life, and I used to go surf fishing down at Terminal Surf Park, and we would go down to the Catamaran or down to Vacation Village and get mussels. Mm-hmm. And we go down with a white gas lantern. This is 40-plus years ago. And we just walked to the beach, some 2 blocks from there. And we would get the mussels, and I discovered that the mussels always fell off your hook real easy, so soft, but it was a great bait. Everything ate it. We would get corvina and perch, and I used to use red thread. For what reason? Because I thought it blended, but of course it diminishes color in water, which is one thing, which it turns out to be. But I would go up to the shoreline because that would get tangled up on the hook and the snells, and I would take the dry eelgrass, and I just hold it with my finger, the real brown dry eelgrass, and I'd wrap around that mussel, and you could cast it, and the stuff wouldn't fly off. It would stay on long enough so you could catch fish in the shore, and it was incredible. We caught so many fish, they'd literally be bumping off your knees. You'd be knee-deep in water, you'd feel fish bumping off you, and you'd catch them right next to you in the same depth.
What a
and
cool
then the
tip.
other thing, yeah, it works. And because the thread was hard to get off at night, because we didn't have, like, headlamps and stuff. You'd have to walk up to the lantern and try to unravel that stuff.
And Kevin, there's a lot of people that are probably pretty confused at what you're trying to describe, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It's
you hold the piece of eelgrass at the eyelet of the hook after you've baited your hook. And you just go round and round and round with the dry eelgrass.
But Kevin, it's that grass
pull it right off.
That grass is the surf grass, and it's typically a very vibrant green. Mm-hmm. And when it dries up in the surf line, it turns into almost an unbreakable piece of thread.
Right. Mm-hmm. And you can pull it right off the hook when you're done. You know, they'll take the bait and they'll still have some of that on there, but they'll eat it because when they're eating on the bottom of the water, when they're searching around for food with sand crabs, they got eelgrass everywhere, so it's constantly going in the mouths as well. So it's normal to them. And then the other thing I did, we used to go down to Vacation Village or Catamaran Hotel. Or no, I already said that one. I went down to Bud's Dock down here at Dawes Street at the foot of PB, and this was when I was in elementary school as well, in the summer months, and we'd fish all day, all night, whatever we wanted to do till midnight. Parents didn't care if we were out. And we would get, I made sand crabs. I made these little quarter-inch mesh cages, and I would put bread in them, and I threw it over the dock at the women's rowing club there. And Bud would let us fish down there, and I used a little Zebco rod that I got at Save on Drugs. I called it the Mickey Mouse rod, and I threw that out there with a smell. But we fish there all the time. I caught we didn't weigh it, but it must have been at least like a 35-pound halibut.
Oh,
and
cool.
We brought
is
it
that?
in, and Bud was there, and we put it in. They got a Polaroid picture of it. You know those galvanized wash tubs are about 3 feet wide. The thing was laying there, it was bent, you know, and he took a picture of it with a Polaroid, so that kind of dates back to the day. And that, when I caught that thing, I had it tied off to one of the docks where you tie your line onto the dock. I had my rod tied off to that because we just let it soak, and it just floated to the surface. Didn't even know it was hooked because we had like 8-pound tests, and we got it in.
What a cool deal, Kevin. Yeah, it's definitely some real neat stories, and that's those cool things that keep us going, right?
That's
Kevin?
right. We learn little tips like that. I'm taking notes right now, Kevin.
Yeah, and we appreciate Kevin joining the show this morning. Let's jump back into it. We're going to talk to Jim. Jim is calling from, let's see here. Jim's calling from National City. Good morning. Welcome to Let's Talk Hookup, Jim.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Great show again. I got a couple of questions on fishing these sand crabs. What is the correct way to hook that sand crab, and what type of hook should I use?
Good questions. Now, you know, it's really important that you hook the sand crab correctly. If you don't, just like many other baits in the surf, it'll spin in a circle, which is completely, of course, unnatural. And if you want to catch the big fish, you want to have it look as natural as possible. So first of all, hook-wise, the hook is really, really, really important in surf fishing. You need a thin wire, very sharp hook. Great hooks to use would be the Owner Mosquito hook. Owner makes a Owner Mosquito Light. I would normally use a size 1, a 2, or a 4, 1 being the largest, 4 being the smallest. Gamakatsu makes a split shot / drop shot hook. That's probably one of the best hooks on the market for surf fishing. Super sharp, super thin wire. All you have to do is really reel down on the fish, and you're going to be hooking them. Or the Mustad Ultralight hook, which is, once again, a very, very thin wire, very sharp hook. All three of those work well. Size 1, 2, or 4, probably 2 is the most common size that I would use. And then hooking sand crabs, it's hard to explain, let's say, on the radio because we can't see it, but to simplify it, I'm going to turn the crab over so its feet are down and its back is up. I'm going to hook the hook through the skinny part of the sand crab, which is actually its head, opposite from the backside, which is its tail. I'm going to put the hook all the way through there, turn the hook forward, punch that hook through the little digger, which is basically the tail of the sand crab, and then up to the crab. So almost like the hook is cradling the crab, and that's how I'm going to use it in the surf. If I do that, it comes back across the bottom almost like it's waddling and making its way to shore. If you hook the crab almost any other way, the tail or that little wing on the end of it, which is where you'll find the eggs underneath there, will open up and that thing will spin like the propeller on a plane. And only the smallest perch will go for that. So you really want to try to get it on the hook so it's not going to spin.
And a natural presentation, like you're saying.
Absolutely. It's all about that.
Yeah, those are great tips, Jim. Did that answer your question?
Yes, very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We appreciate you joining the show this morning, Jim. You had a great question. Let's jump back into it. Dennis from Norwalk. We welcome you to Let's Talk Hookup. Good morning, Dennis.
Yes, good morning. I have a question for you. I'm not really into surf fishing, but my son Danny is, and he's wanting to know about the line that you use.
Okay.
Would you use either mono or the fluorocarbon or some other line, like a fiber line?
Exactly. Line is important in the surf, and I'll use actually a couple of different combinations of line. Generally, when I'm fishing, especially if I'm bait fishing, I'm always going to fish monofilament line. I'll fish 6-pound Pink Andy or 6-pound Cajun red line. I like a pink or red line because it's very easy to see in the surf, and when you're surf fishing, it's really important to know where your line is because there's a longshore current that many times can take it to the beach, down the beach from you. You don't even notice that your line's not out in the water. Maybe it's wrapped around some kid's legs down there, and his mom's waving her arms. So you want to know, A, where your line is, not only from the longshore current standpoint, but also if you know where a trough or a hole is, or you're fishing the edge of a jetty, you want to be able to know where your line is in comparison to those different features. So 6-pound red or pink monofilament made by Andy, or Cajun red, which is made by Zebco. That would be bait fishing. If I was fishing a Lucky Craft lure, for example, I would have the choice of fishing braided line or monofilament. Many of the top surf fishermen for halibut use 10-pound monofilament. And the reason we like monofilament in the surf is it has a lot of stretch to it. And when you're fighting fish in through the surf, you have a surge that comes in and then water that sucks out. And you don't have enough time for your drag to really kick in. You have to hope that your rod has enough bend in it to work as a shock absorber, and then some stretch in that line. Whereas with braided line, there's no stretch at all, and many times those fish, it'll pull the hook right out of their mouth. That would be the case with bait fishing. If I'm lure fishing, I could go, if I wanted to, straight with braid to my lure, because if I'm using a Lucky Craft or a Rapala, I've got essentially 9 hooks on there, and it's not going to pop out because it's pulled out of their lip. And then for my leader material, if I'm going to use a leader, I'm always using 6-pound fluorocarbon leader. And the reason we're using fluorocarbon is not only are we told that it's invisible underwater, which the reason that it works underwater like that is it works on the premise of refraction. So it actually looks like it breaks apart in water and it's difficult to see. But more important, it's very abrasion resistant. And when you're at the beach, you have all kinds of things that your line rubs up against, whether it's kelp or rocks or sand and so forth, and that's why it's so important to use fluorocarbon down by your hook.
Those are some great tips, Bill, because, I mean, that's really, Dennis, I mean, to answer your question, it really puts you in the right direction.
Yes, it does. And one other thing, Bill, you said you're using sand crabs. What's the best time of year to look for those sand crabs?
Well, we find basically 3 types of sand crabs from, let's say, Cabo, San Lucas, all the way up to San Francisco. When you're Santa Barbara or above, sand crabs will occur all year long. You can find them all the time, regardless of the temperature of the water. They thrive in colder water, so they're around all the time up there. When you get below Santa Barbara, so let's just say, for example, Santa Barbara to Cedros Island zone, you'll normally find them on the surface when the water is about 60 degrees. So if you look on the internet or you're old-fashioned like me and you still look at the newspaper, those things made of paper and they write on them still, they'll have a list in there of when the water temperature is 60 degrees or warmer. And once you see that in Southern California, you know that the crabs are now up on the surface. Once the water gets to about 63 degrees, they begin to lose their shells. And then the last group of sand crabs would be down on the East Cape and Cabo San Lucas, and there's sand crabs there too. They're really all over the world. I mean, they're in Hawaii, they're all over, but they have very small differences between them in their looks and their size and so forth. And down in warmer water environments, they're there all year long also, but in much smaller numbers. So here in Southern California, if I was to fish San Diego or Huntington Beach or Hermosa Beach, I'd be looking for the water temperature to be about 60 degrees or warmer, so that'd be about the middle of April on through about the 1st of October. And if I really wanted to find sand crabs all year long up here, you still can, and the place to look, underneath piers. That's where they're going to be accumulating.
Interesting. You mentioned, like, they're all over the world, and they're in all climates. You mentioned this, and I had the question. I was in Mazatlan over the summer, very warm water, very, temperate climate, tropical. There are sand crabs all over the beach. I'm like, what the heck,
I know. It really throws you off when you see them in that super cold water.
I'm like, where am I,
That's right. And you know what? Down in that warmer water, they have more of like a tan than up here in the cooler water. They're more of a dark gray color.
Yeah, definitely. Let's jump back in. Let's grab a quick one here. Let's talk to Rob. Rob's calling from La Jolla. Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Hookup this morning, Rob.
Yeah, good morning, Corey, Bill. I've got about 3 or 4 questions for you. First of all, as far as bloodworms go, I think, now if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard they bring them in from the East Coast, and I was wondering if there's any places you can make bait with those in San Diego.
Well,
around here.
That's a very good question. And my buddy Ken, who's here with us today, who's a big surf fisherman and has fished with me for 2 or 3 decades, a long time, he'll tell you that bloodworms are the bait that bites back.
And they do.
And they do.
Oh, yeah.
Bloodworms who have those little pinchers, they also have a neurotoxin, and that's what they use through those pinchers to basically paralyze their food. And if you let one clamp onto your finger, you'll notice that it'll start going numb, and it'll last for about 15 or 20 minutes. And if you haven't experienced it before, you might jump in your car thinking you need to go to the hospital. But they are fantastic bait. They are dug up or farmed up in the East Coast, up in, I would say, Maine, really from Nantucket up, and they're found in estuaries there. If you went back to The Perfect Storm, remember the book and the movie The Perfect Storm? When that storm came up the coast, it destroyed many of those estuaries, and it made it very, very difficult for them to dig. They basically dig them out of the mud, clean them up, and then they're put on a plane. They're flown out here to California every Thursday. They go through whatever process they need to at the airport, and then distributed to the tackle shop. So back in those days after that storm, they were decimated. They were about $40 a dozen. Nobody would go out and buy those. So we found that these lugworms that come from Korea, they're grown in Korea and China, made their way to the U.S. and took a lot of the places of the bloodworms. But both of those are fantastic baits to use. In the ocean, there's over 3,000 types of worms that occur naturally.
Isn't that crazy?
It's amazing.
Wow.
And we have quite a few here on the West Coast that you can get in local estuaries here. That's where you're going to find them, inside a harbor area, estuary area. And they're very similar to a bloodworm. They're almost like a centipede.
But they're spindly.
They're spindly, but we found some big ones that are really kind of like a centipede. But the problem with those is that they also carry the neurotoxin, which is in all of these spines that are on the sides of the worm that are like a centipede.
Not just in the mouth.
Not just in the mouth. So you have to be very careful with handling them.
That's crazy. Yeah. Did you have another question, Rob?
I sure did. I got a couple of. One is. I was curious, too. I heard that they used to be able to find seahorse in the Big Bay. Have you guys heard anything about that, seahorses?
Yeah, you know what? You're hitting some really, niche stuff, and I have heard that from the scientists diving and the biologists seeing them, and that is a part of our natural fabric of San Diego Bay. It's actually kind of a cool thing, and like we have bloodworms and everything else. Kind of cool. Seahorses, right?
What's out there, who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, we're going to be right back on Let's Talk Hookup. We have more with Bill Varney, more with surf fishing. We got more fish reports coming up on the Mighty 1090 and Let's Talk Hookup.
Fisherman's Landing is the top choice in local and long-range fishing. Hi, this is Doug Kern. Our hard-working crew is always looking for ways to improve your fishing experience. We offer the finest open party trips from 1 to 3 days, the best charter boats available, and of course, our world-renowned long-range fleet is second to none. We are proud to say Fisherman's Landing is now a full-service sport fishing operation, offering half-day trips on the Dolphin, and now, for the first time in the long history of Fisherman's Landing, we have 3/4-day open party trips on the Liberty. We built the Liberty specifically to offer a better experience. Run by veteran captain Taro Takeuchi, the 85-foot Liberty is the first open party 3/4-day boat to offer bunks for your comfort. She also has huge bait capacity and RSW fish holds to keep your catch fresh. Plus, Liberty has a big galley and 2 interior heads with showers. Our open party trips from half-day, 3/4-day, or 1 to 3 day trips can be easily booked online at fishermanslanding.com or give us a call at 619-221-8500. I'll see you at Fisherman's Landing in San Diego.
There are plenty of boat slips and marinas in San Diego, but there is only one Kona Kai. It's not just a place to park your boat, it's a way of life here in America's finest city. Come check out what's new at the Kona Kai. 170 luxury guest rooms, including 41 brand new suites, featuring contemporary island-inspired decor, deep soaking tubs and oversized balconies. The Kona Kai Resort Spa and Marina has multiple swimming pools and a private beach, waterfront restaurants, and an award-winning spa, most of which is included for marina tenants. Add the Kona Kai Club to your membership and you have access to the new Paloma Pool Bar, a new and exclusive pool area for adults only, which allows guests to enjoy poolside craft cocktails and California coastal cuisine while overlooking your boat. In addition to all this, Kona Kai is the closest marina to the open ocean. Check resortkonakai.com on the web for more information, to reserve a slip, or inquire about joining the club. The Kona Kai Resort, much more than just a place to park your boat. While Seagar invented fluorocarbon fishing line in 1971, their never-ending pursuit of innovation has never stopped. They are the only company making double structure fluorocarbon, which combines two exclusive custom resins, a high-density interior for strength and sensitivity, and a softer exterior for enhanced knot strength. So for the best in fishing performance, pick up a spool of Seaguar Fluoro Premier and the original Blue Label leader material at your favorite tackle dealer. Both are double structure fluorocarbon.
XEBRS 1090 AM, Rosarito, Baja California.
San Diego's sports leader. The home of ESPN Radio. The mighty 1090.
We all need to get around, but we all need something different from our vehicles. Your San Diego County Ford dealers have you covered if you're looking for a new truck this month. Plus, it's SUV season, so they have great deals for everyone. Whether it's a new EcoSport that is nimble and fun around town, or the Ford Explorer that is capable of putting a boat in the water and has seating for 7, Ford has you covered. Ford trucks and SUVs aren't just powerful and legendary. They have the latest technology that helps you seamlessly connect your smartphone and ensure you're safe on the road. Features like Pro Trailer Backup Assist on trucks are truly a game changer at the ramp, helping you back up a trailer by simply turning a knob on the dash and doing the hard work for you. So check out all the great deals during SUV season and save some money on the right gear for you. Learn more at buyfordnow.com or visit your San Diego County Ford dealers today. They'll be glad to hook you up.
It's time to get excited about fishing, and Point Loma Sport Fishing has everything you'll need. They offer half-day and three-quarter-day trips daily, perfect for families and the novice or seasoned fishermen. Point Loma Sport Fishing also offers overnight to multi-day trips, targeting the best of seasonal catches. Visit their website at pointlomasportfishing.com, where you can purchase tickets online and get more information on the trips available, or call 619-223-1627.
Hey, it's time for the 30-second Power Pro Seminar. Here's the hot tip for those of us that like to fish with small reels for big fish. Fill your spools with Power Pro Max Quattro. It's 25% thinner than standard Power Pro. That means you're going to get more line on that small reel. Plus, you can fly line your bait more effectively. Here's another tip about Power Pro Max Quattro. Your casting distance will increase in addition to increasing your spool capacity. So downsize your tackle and use Power Pro Max Quattro. Check PowerPro.com for more information.